what we would endeavor to share with you this morning are where we are with Spicemas 2K11. What are some of the things that we are embarking on this year, some of the new initiatives that we are embarking on. And I am here merely accompanying the chairman of the Carnival Committee. He will carry most of the load in this press conference. So my task would be simply to welcome you and to say to you that we believe that Spicemas 2K11 is well poised to be the biggest carnival ever in the history of this country. And I will give the floor over to Mr. Dow, who will then start to share the information, and I will fill in at the end of his presentation.
Thank you very much, Senator Gill. Notice the challenge of Spicemas being the biggest ever, and I see somebody whispering saying every year they'll say that. But I have no doubt that every year, regardless of who sits in the chair as the chairperson of the Grenada Carnival Committee, it certainly is an attempt to make the carnival bigger and better, if not in every aspect, but rather in some aspect. And this is no different from how we would approach and have been approaching Carnival over the last 3 years. We all know some of the inheritance that we would have acquired as a GCC, which is nothing new. You know, you come into a situation where you have $300,000 in debt. You come into a situation where there is a great mistrust between the leadership of Carnival and the associations for the various stakeholders. You come into a situation where you would like to be a fundraising and revenue generating body, but all of the persons that you would need to engage to raise funds, which are close to your core competencies, you actually owe. So if you owe mass, you owe pan, you owe calypso, you owe for stage, light, sound, you owe security, and what you do is put on shows, you would have a big problem putting on shows. And those were our realities. So when we started off in 2009, coming out of 2009, one of the things that was extremely important to us was dealing with the streamlining of finances, the getting more accountability, both within the organization as a Grenada Carnival Committee, as well as with the various persons that we would deal with, stakeholders through accounting for the various subventions that they would receive, as well as taking a look at the type of money spent on service providers. Can we do these things better? Can we have arrangements with the various provisions of services so that it will be a less cash outlay on behalf of the GCC, but the same type of value is being transferred to both entities, hence getting a win-win situation. So that has been some of the challenges and some of the things that we looked upon. We are extremely proud that we've been able to refocus and brand Spicemas. I know that there have been quite a lot of conversations over the choosing of themes, etc. And, you know, sometimes if you're in marketing, they say any publicity is good publicity. We don't necessarily subscribe to that view. But at the same time, our efforts was to recognize, and for those who would do classes in POB and the like, there were no terms like the unique selling proposition. The question is, if you have a good, what about your good that distinguishes it from other goods out there so that you can cause persons to buy into it? And it is very clear. Every Grenadian knows that our signature events would be our Juve, because there isn't an experience like that, certainly within the English-speaking Caribbean, I would say beyond that, as it relates to Carnival. It is our Monday night mass. That street party on Monday night is very different from anything that you'll experience in any other island. It is our traditional forms of mass. And I use that deliberately because quite often, whereas the most noted form of traditional mass is our jab, that black jab, and the sound that goes along with it that has been exploited from the days of Morse International to the now carrier of that music being Talpri, well, or Iowa George, depending on how you want to look at it. Those are our strengths. And it's extremely important that we play to those strengths as we look at Carnival. Carnival, in some person's view, is 2 days of jam and wine, naked, drunk people on the streets of Grenada. The Grenada Carnival Committee sees Carnival as an economic event that involves our culture. Carnival is extremely important to us as a nation economically, and everything that we do should bear that aspect of this event in mind. When we speak of tourism, and I know that there are great numbers that are shown in terms of cruise ship arrivals, etc. But in the 3 weeks that is Carnival, from the Friday, semi-final Friday of the Soca Monarch competition to Carnival Tuesday, we have seen 9,500 persons coming to Grenada. That we define as the Carnival season. There is no period, whether we're talking the height of the cruise ships or the height of the winter season, etc., that beats that type of influx into Grenada, stayover visitors, that is. This causes, in terms of generation to our economy, upwards of 25 million EC dollars by way of visitor expenditure. Carnival is an economic activity. Sometimes when bad things happen to persons, you're forced to take a look inwards. And the economic crisis that we have all faced as Grenadians, well, and as Caribbean persons, and indeed it is worldwide, have caused the GCC to take a serious look as to how we do things and to reposition this Carnival event to support our nation's economy. We know the benefits that are out there. We know the benefits that have been accrued historically. But it's extremely important that we position it in a way for us to maximize on the benefits. It means, therefore, that the events that we put on should be of a certain quality. It means, therefore, that the support that we give to events that are outside of the GCC, put on by private promoters, community groups, etc., is given full support. It means also that the environment and the mood of the country is as such that the festivities can be celebrated in a manner that will maximize not only the enjoyment and the fun, but the economics of having a cultural event. It means also that we have to depend on, one, the Grenadian public, to be the good Grenadian public that we typically are. Grenada is easily one of the safest places in the Caribbean. One of our strengths as Grenada is the safety and security that we enjoy in the Spice Isle. That needs to continue during the Carnival celebrations, regardless of all what may be happening, because this is one of our selling points, is one of the things that will attract visitors, is one of the things that will make us have a successful season. As per usual, we depend heavily on the media. Media, not in terms of playing the advertisements, which means that Carnival is a great revenue-generating time for you. And I will argue, probably alongside Christmas, even if it doesn't beat out Christmas, is a good, especially for electronic media, a good, strong advertising period for the media houses. It also means that the messages that we carry, and we're not talking censorship here, let me be very clear, the messages that we carry also helps with the mood for the season, helps to set the tone for the season that we all can benefit, whether we're speaking of a GCC, private promoters, or the media houses, because of the economic importance of this aspect of the season to the media. Some of the things that we have reintroduced over the last couple of years that, of course, we feel very proud about is the professional production of shows. You would have seen the movement towards having service providers tender for the various services provided to the Carnival Committee. We got away a little bit, and please note that my we is a continuous we. It's not this particular committee, because GCC is continuous. And as a GCC, we have gotten away from that a little bit, so it is important that we rein those things in. You would notice last year we had billboards around the island celebrating some of our cultural icons and signaling that Carnival and the reign of Spicemas is here. That's extremely important for us to continue to do, because, of course, it adds to the mood of the country as we would move forward. I think, let me just jump into some of the plans that we will have for 2011, and a lot of the background things we certainly would be able to address in moving forward. This year, 2011, is 30 years of Mass in August. Mass in August began in 1981. We are positioning Spicemas as the last lap summer festival, and this is the crowning event of Caribbean carnivals. And it is 30 years since we've been having Mass in August. The themes, therefore, adopted for a number of our shows, especially the Mardi Gras, will be reflective of this 30th anniversary of Mass in August. One of the other important things that will be taking place here, and it's not an exciting part necessarily for patrons, but an exciting part for us as an organizing committee, is that with the assistance of the Ministry of Finance, we're having an economic impact assessment done of Carnival. What that means is that we'll be able to get real data on what Carnival means to the Grenadian economy. So when we lobby government, when we lobby the private sector and ask for additional assistance, it is by having empirical data, knowing what this means, so that we will not be doing guesswork as we ask for investment, and that investment amounts to about $2 million, investment in the Carnival product. This year also, we will be reintroducing, after almost a 30-year gap, actually a little bit more than, well, yes, it's almost a 30-year gap, of a Carnival city. In collaboration with the Ministry of Culture and the Ministry of Tourism, we'll be hosting a Carnival city every Thursday, well, Carnival city activities every Thursday and Sunday nights. The venue cited for this is the Fort Matthew location, and it is an opportunity for patrons to have guaranteed Carnival-type entertainment every Thursday and Sunday from the launch of Carnival through to the celebrations of the actual Carnival events on Carnival Monday and Tuesday, August 8th and 9th. This we look forward to. It will give an additional avenue for our artists to perform. It will give an additional avenue for our mass players and mass band leaders to showcase their costumes, etc., to the public ahead of the last days before the Carnival season. We will also be facilitating a last lap concert, a concert of winners on Carnival Tuesday. What we would have noticed happening in recent times, that at the end of Carnival, at the end of the parade of the bands on Tuesday, persons are walking up and down the carnage almost as crazy ants. But there isn't a crowning activity that says, hey, this is the climax of Spicemas. Unlike other countries where the police are forced to shut down their last lap activities by 6 p.m., Grenada Carnival has permission to go until midnight and never goes until midnight or even close thereto, because of the lack of that type of crowning activity. Therefore, the GCC will be hosting a last lap concert of winners in the Grenada National Stadium. So we will go back to Carnival City in order to bring that crowning event to Spicemas. The question may be asked, therefore, how will we get to the National Stadium if the parade of the bands is taking place in its usual place? So we'll be making 2 adjustments to routes for Spicemas. Adjustment number 1 will be that of the Monday night mass parade. We do recognize that persons in their thousands typically will join in with Monday night to play with Monday night mass bands. The route is short, the bands begin late, it is therefore short and intense, but the full revelry that is Carnival, expanding across 5 a.m. Monday morning to midnight on Tuesday, is not taken advantage of. We therefore will be aiming to lengthen the route from the Grand Dance area to Carnage for Monday night mass and give persons a greater opportunity to celebrate. This call has come from masqueraders. And it is important that we listen to the persons who are participating, to the persons who want even more revelry to have the opportunity to do so. On Carnival Tuesday, that last lap parade will start at its usual place along the Lagoon Road area. But Over the last couple of years, there's been much conversation as regards to bringing Carnival back in town. Spicemas has outgrown the town of St. George in the city center. So we cannot bring Spicemas back to town, but we'll be endeavoring to pass Spicemas through town. So whereas Spicemas will start at Lagoon Road as per usual, the parade of the bands will proceed Lagoon Road, Port Highway, the Carnage, Young Street, Halifax, onto Melville Street, and then make its way to the National Stadium, where we will be having that last lap concert and that climax to Spicemas. A couple other things that we are looking into. There have been some clamoring about the Mardi Gras product, and it's extremely important that we listen to the public. I did emphasize that Carnival is an economic activity that involves our cultural exploits. So it is important that our patrons are addressed. And one of the challenges that the patrons have expressed, and we have seen it in the numbers at the Mardi Gras, is that the Mardi Gras is boring, there aren't sufficient persons, or this enjoyment and fun and excitement of yesteryear, where you used to have your jump up round, quote unquote, is no longer there. And we have seen it reflected in the numbers. The question is, what can we do? We cannot mandate that persons sing a song of a particular nature in order to take part in the Mardi Gras competition. So the GCC will be incentivizing the Spirit of Carnival Award. And the idea is to have a special prize for the artists making it to the Mardi Gras with a song that best reflects the revelry that is Carnival. The aim is to make this a decent cash award, which is separate and apart from the prize monies associated with the Mardi Gras event. We are hopeful that artists will take up this challenge to write good, strong, Spirit of Carnival type songs that can not only get them to the Mardi Gras, but crop that award for bringing that spirit back to the Mardi Gras that those of us who grew up before the 2000s knew quite well, being part of the Mardi Gras experience before going into the finals of the, before going into our Juve experience. Another adjustment. I did emphasize quite early in terms of that unique selling proposition that our traditional mass, all aspects of our traditional mass, is extremely important to us. On the calendar over the last 2 years, we have had a traditional mass exposition and competition in Victoria. We have not been able to deliver on that for a number of reasons, both in terms of our conversations with the players, as well as the financing to pull off yet another new event. I'm happy to say that in 2011, we will be able to give traditional mass and all of the aspects of our traditional mass the place it deserves. If this is one of our strengths, it's extremely important that we know what we play, we understand what we play, we know why we play it, and that history moves from the persons in their 50s and 60s, and probably a little bit older, to those who are in their teens and 20s. As such, on July the 23rd, we will be hosting a traditional mass exhibition and competition in Victoria, St. Mark. The idea of this exhibition and competition is to showcase the forms of our, well, the dying forms of our traditional mass. So Jab Jab will not be part of it, although it is a part of our traditional mass culture. But things like the Wild Indian, Veko, Shortney, Maypole, and others will be a part of this. And we're not just talking about persons jumping on the streets, which is the exhibition, which is the competition aspect of it, but rather the history of that mass. What is done, how to do it. So it's the elements of its creation, its genesis, as well as how to do it so we can perpetuate this culture, so that there will be a strong footing for this unique aspect of Spicemas to continue from strength to strength, and we would not lose it as we would have lost things like our patois and other aspects that were known to our grandparents. This we see as an extremely important step for Spicemas 2011 and moving forward. We need to preserve what we have. We need to leverage what we have so we can actually have a more successful carnival competition. I did mention the change of routes in terms of the activities for this year, and it probably is incumbent on me to share what the theme for this year is. Anyone who would have visited our website within the last couple of days or would have looked at on some of the electronic media houses would have seen the ad. And within the generic ad for Spicemas 2011, which is being aired regionally in collaboration with the Grenada Board of Tourism, we have that incorporated. So the theme for 2011 is uniquely rooted in our rich ancestral traditions. Spicemas, home of 100,000 jab jabs. The traditional mass is being signaled early. Our strength is being leveraged regionally and internationally. We certainly don't want anyone to claim that jab jab came from Trinidad, especially with the exploits of one Neil Iowa George the Boss in the Soca Monarch competition this year. So the idea is to put our stamp on it and to do other works during the course of the year, because the traditional mass and the workings of the history and everything else are all part of that branding of Spicemas. It's all part of the vision that we have for Carnival in Grenada, and making sure that we leave Carnival on a sound and strong footing for our children and our children's children. I will end here, and I deliberately did not speak of the launches because I would allow Senator Gill to speak of the various launches as they would come up, starting from this weekend through the actual launch in